Hi, I'm Dr. Jaya Priyadarshini, and the topic of discussion is polity and economy from 1200 to 1750 AD. Now, this entire time span is called the medieval period in Indian history. Now, this is when we see India being ruled by Muslim rulers. This was primarily under the dynasties, or say the states called the Delhi Sultanate and also the Mughal Empire subsequently. Uh, Talking about the Delhi Sultanate, we know that it came into being with the capture of Delhi by Muhammad Ghori in 1192 and the placing of Qutbuddin Aibak, his slave, as the ruler of Delhi. Now we see that Qutbuddin Aibak ruled till 1206, and he is succeeded by his slave and also son-in-law Shamsuddin al-Tutmish. Now we know that Shamsuddin al-Tutmish was is called the real founder of Delhi Sultanate. Why exactly? Because he protected the state against in both internal and external rebellions and threats. And also, apart from that, we see that he led to the internal structuring of the new state of Delhi Sultanate. Now, how we did that? And that was by introducing the coinage system and also by introducing systems like administrative systems like ICTA system, and also by instituting a body of nobility that followed him and could make him rule properly. And this is how he ruled his entire 26 years that he ruled for. And we see that he actually expanded his state also. Like we had seen that, we know that they had started from Delhi, but Iltutmish actually increased his state way too much. And after him, we know that he was succeeded by not by his son, but by his daughter named Razia Sultan. And she was a very assertive lady who wore male attire, who rode horses, etc. And all these things, whatever she did, was not being liked by her nobility. Why exactly? Because they wanted to get the de facto power and they wanted the ruler, be it a woman or a man, to have the de jure powers. But it was not with Razia, and that's why they did not like her and conspired against her, killed her. And after her, again see that at least three other rulers came to power, but they were all very weak. And the last one was Nasiruddin Mahmud, and he was also ultimately, perhaps, he was killed by a noble itself, who was the next ruler, who's called Balban. So we see Balban strengthened the authority of the Sultan. How he did that? By uh, by by uh, uh, by believing in the semi-divine theory of kingship. I mean, in other ways, he wanted to say that he had a semi-divine status, and everybody should follow him, should worship him. And apart from that, he also claimed to have Persian descent, Iranian descent, royal Iranian descent. Uh, Also, apart from that, he also curtailed the power of nobility and also maintained a very strong army called the Diwane Ars. That was the Department of Army that was instituted by him. And he, we actually see a very strong and centralized government under Balban. And that's how he ruled for around 40 years, 46 to 86, he ruled, 1236 to 86. And we see that during his time, the territories were not expanded. He rather believed in consolidation rather than expansion. Now, after him, we see a different dynasty of Turks coming to power, who were the Khilji. And the king was Jalaluddin Khilji, who was a very kind and lenient man, and he kind of brought peace with Mongols also. Like we know that through the entire Delhi Sultanate, there is problem of Mongol threat, Mongol invasion, and making peace with the Mongols was a big thing in itself, and that Jalaluddin did. Nonetheless, he was killed by his own nephew called Alauddin Khilji. And these days, after seeing Padmavat, we know what Alauddin Khilji was. But trust me, he was not like that. He was a very good ruler. He worked for the state and he did good things for the state. He introduced strong revenue reforms and also maintained a very strong, very large standing army to protect the state against the Mongol threat. And also he instituted the market regulations. That was to control the prices of everything in the market. And also we know that he expanded the empire way too much towards the south. In fact, we see that till now Delhi Sultanate was only to be seen in northern region of India, but now we can see in the south as well. This part. So he expanded the state way too much. After Alauddin, we see Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq coming to power. That's another dynasty. And he again ruled for 5 years. He was again a very lenient king. And he also had followed a policy of reconciliation with everybody, like people, nobility, everybody. And what he did was he kind of withheld most of the policies of Alauddin that were very stringent. Uh, and also he kind of encouraged agriculture in every way possible. He improved the status of the peasantry and increased the strength of army and increased the territory of the state towards, like, he annexed Varangal, Telangana, Orissa, etc. After him, we see his son Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who is a very eccentric character in history. Why exactly? Uh, because he came up with his experiments that were really good in plan, but when it came to execution, they failed miserably. And that's why historians, scholars, they call him as the wisest fool or the mixture of opposites. One of his experiments was like shifting of the capital from Delhi to Devagiri towards the south, and that was a very good plan so that he could kind of protect his capital from Mongol invasions. But thing was that he made the entire city shift from Delhi to Devagiri, and when he realized that it's a very wrong and bad plan, people are suffering way too much. The traders are actually miserable. So what he did was he again made the people shift from Devagiri to Delhi. So everybody was like really perturbed by his plan. And it was not just one plan, but many other plans, to say experiments like that happened. And that's how we see that a lot of revolts happened in his time period. And after him, we see that somebody called Firoz Shah Tughlaq came to power, and he was again a very lenient man, and he followed the policy of reconciliation towards everybody, nobles, peasants, ulemas, religious leaders, everybody. He instituted a department of charity called the Diwan-e-Khairat, and also established many cities. We can see that, like Hisar, Firozpur, etc. And apart from that, he again encouraged horticulture and constructed many canals, and that really helped agriculture way too much. So next we see that two other dynasties came to power: the Sayyids and the Lodhis. Now, the Sayyids were the first Afghan dynasty ruling over India, and we see that both these dynasties were not very powerful. The only thing that we know that we really remember this name of Ibrahim Lodi, because he was defeated by somebody called Babur, who was a Turco-Mongol invader who defeated him, and he started his state called the Mughal state in 1526. So Babur could rule from 1526 to 30, not for much long. And after him, we see his son Humayun coming to power, and he ruled for around 10 years. And after that, we see that somebody called Sher Shah Suri defeats Humayun, and he sets up his own state in India. And that's when Humayun actually flees away to Persia, Iran, present Iran, and he seeks refuge there for around a decade. And again, in 1556, he comes back to India. 1555, he comes back to India, and then he defeats the Suris. And that's how the Mughal state again gets established. But Humayun could not survive for much long, and he's succeeded by his son Akbar. And Akbar, as you know, we know from our childhood that Akbar was the great king. So we should understand why exactly do we call Akbar as great. Basically, if you look at his policies, another entire time period, you see his policies. I mean, they were really great. He thought for the state, not just for the not for the religion, but he thought for the state, the entire people in general. So, like for example, if you look at his religious policy, or if you look at his Rajput policy, he matured with time, and he shows the majority. Sorry, he shows his maturity in the rulership, and that's how he could actually expand the territory of the state way too much. And after him, we see his son coming to power. That was in 1606 to 27. Jahangir, his son, rules. And I mean, he followed, like I said, Akbar was the great, and whatever he instituted for the state was again followed by his successors, not just Jahangir, but everybody after him. They kind of succeeded. They followed all of it. Um, and only like the expansion of the territory happens, but along with the whatever Akbar had given them, they followed all of that. And it's only in the in say Aurangzeb's time that he kind of diverged from whatever Akbar was doing in his times. And that's how in Aurangzeb time only the Mughal empire comes down, slowly and steadily starts coming down, because we see it's not just religion. I mean, Aurangzeb is again a very seen as a very villainous figure in history, but it's not like that. If you look at history, it's a very good ruler, and he kind of abolished many taxes like octroi and rahatari taxes for the people and for the state. But there's certain things that he should not have done, and he did. And because of that, I mean, he kind of made enemies with everybody. Like for example, the Rajputs. He kind of interfered with the war of succession in Marwar. That is one of the Rajputana states, and the Rajputs did not like his intervention, and that's how the Rajput revolt started. And this is how the Rajputs, who were the like the sword, they were like the sword arm of the Mughal Empire. That kind of it was done away with, and that's how slowly and steadily the Mughal Empire started coming down after Aurangzeb. After Aurangzeb, we see till 1857, we see more Mughal Empire, but the rulers were very weak, and the Mughal Empire slowly and steadily it comes down and it disintegrates completely. Now, after that, we let's come to the economy part. Um, Economy of the Delhi Sultanate. So let's start with agriculture. We know that the land was classified into the Iktas, Khalisa, and Inam lands. Iktas were territorial assignments given to the military chiefs, and Khalisas were crown lands, and Inam lands were like land grants given to religious leaders. And apart from that, we know that the land revenue was around 33% in cash or in kind, and many crops were grown, um, and everything depended upon the Sultan's policies, what the rulers did with agriculture. So Balban, we know that Balban actually had told his son Bughra Khan. All of this we know from the contemporary historian of those times, Barni, that he told his son that the tax should not be very less or very much more, because in both the things the peasants will have the tendency to revolt. So that was policy followed by Balban. And after him, we see that Jalaluddin Khilji, again, he was very good towards the peasantry. And about Alauddin Khilji, we know how the revenue was increased too much. And the same thing happened in Mughal, Muhammad bin Tughlaq's time also. And also after that, we see in Firoz Shah Tughlaq's time, everything was, better than before. So it all depended upon the Sultan's tendency, what they did. So after that, we know that. Textile industry, like if we have to talk about the industry in that time, textile industry was the largest, and we could see the production of uh, we could see fine quality fabric being grown in different regions like Bengal, Gujarat, etc. And we also, apart from that, we also know that the Turks got many technologies with them, which really helped the textile industry. Like, for example, the charkha, the Gandhika charkha, the spinning wheel, this one, and also the cotton carders bow or dhunia. These technologies were brought by the Turks, and apart this really helped textile industry. And apart from the textile industry, we had many other industries like metallurgy, building activities, mining, leather work, paper making, etc. And we know that during during the rulership of the Turks, the process of urbanization also increased, and many new towns, cities were established, and there was too much of economic production that happened in the Turks' time in the Delhi Sultanate. Talking about internal and external trade, both overland and overseas foreign trade happened, and there were different groups of merchants everywhere. And export was basically done, like export was sent to the Middle East, to the Persian Gulf, to Europe, to also Southeast Asia. So it's very widespread in medieval period also. Now, system of coinage, like we know, like we have discussed, that in Iltutmish's time, the silver tanka and copper jeetal was established, and in Alauddin's time also the dinars were to be seen, and in Muhammad bin Tughlaq's time, we know of the failed experiment again of brass coinage. So we know that the system of coinage was very much there, and really helped the economy of Delhi Sultanate. Now let's come to the economy of Mughal state. We know that different types of peasantries were to be seen, like Khudkash, who were uh, the peasants who owned lands and stayed in the same village, and Pahekash were like peasants who came from outside the village, and they came with the tools and implements, and also the Muzaria, the landless laborers and all. So different kinds of peasantry. Now the economy was very well diversified. Many crops were grown, and and also apart from that, also we know that both what we know as cash crops were also grown in those times, like indigo, sugarcane, oilseeds, etc. And we know that new crops were also introduced, like potato, chilies. These are all new crops that were introduced during Mughals period. And Takabi loans, as they were given in Delhi Sultan times, were also given in Mughal time. And one thing that we know about the Mughal period is that the peasants were the real owners of land. This is something we know that in those times, in like say 17th, 16th, 17th century, Europe did not have something like this. The peasants were not the owners of land. Europe had huge manors, and they were lords, and the peasants worked for the lords. So they were all landless. The peasants, and we know something of, like say, called the feudalism that was very prevalent there. But in India, it was not like that. The peasants were the owners of land, and there was too much of export that was done in that time. And organization of trade, if we have to talk about, it was very, very well organized, and there was a very highly professional trading classes we could see in every kind of trade, like be it local or international. Highly professional trading classes were there. Like we know of the Seth, Bohra, Modi, Banix, etc. And now we know that the movement of goods was facilitated by a very efficient financial system. And we know something like something called the hundis, that were letters of credit, that really helped trade a lot in those times. And talking about the trading communities, it was very heterogeneous in nature. Heterogeneous meaning there was not one particular caste or one particular religion that kind of traded. But we could see Hindu, Jain, Muslim, Bohras, and Marwadis, Multani, Afghan, Khatri, etc. Different kinds of merchants were there in different kinds of trade, and a lot of port cities had come up, and and we know that the merchants were actually, some of the merchants were really rich on the port cities, like somebody called Virji Bora of Surat. I mean, he was as rich or maybe even richer than the European merchants of those times. And why exactly trade prospered so much in the Mughal period was actually dependent upon the Mughal policies. And first of all, the Mughal political system led to the political integration of India, and that really helped trade and commerce a lot. And like I said, the sultans, or say the kings' policies really helped. Um, we know that roads and sarais, or say rest houses, were constructed for the merchants, for the traders, for the travelers, and that really helped trade. Now there were many taxes that were kind of those were removed. Those were called illegal, and they were not taken. So all these measures of the rulers really helped trade and commerce. Now, a lot of towns and cities developed then also, like Fatehpur Sikri, Agra. These were actually capital cities, and they actually developed a lot, and they were even comparable to London or Paris in size at that time. I mean, they were in fact bigger than these European cities. And like down south, we saw Ahmednagar, Baranpur, Multan in north, northwest. In east, again, we had Patna, Rajmahal, Dhaka, which were actually very big towns. And all of this happened because of the vibrancy of the trade. And talking about the foreign trade, Indian exports of foodstuffs like rice, sugar to many, sugar to many Southeast or West Asian countries, and textiles were exported to Europe. Um, See, imports for India were like today. These are there are more imports and less exports, but it's not like that then. Exports were more and imports were less. So there was very favorable balance of trade then. There was very favorable balance of trade, and flow of bullion was there in India. Like in 17th century, the flow of bullion happened in India, and in the European economies, it was like the other way around. The bullion came out of their economies, flew out of their economies. Now, this is how vibrant the Indian economy was in Mughal times also. Like it started from Delhi Sultanate, and in Mughal period, we saw that it developed a lot. So everything depended upon the policies of the state, and we see that talking about the quality of the states in India from 1200 to 1750, they started we could see the rudimentary form actually developing slowly and steadily during Delhi Sultan period. But now by Mughal period, it was actually firmly established and well established. And talking about economy again, the same thing. I mean, urbanization was there in Delhi Sultanate also, but by Mughal times, it just expanded way too much. So, thank you so much.